Joining us now is Chris Bedford, executive editor of the Common Sense Society, and Vince Everett Ellison, member of Project 21 and author of 25 Lies. Chris, the last part is the point. The goal seems to be to get everybody used to what I'm now calling the new normal. It's the post-COVID normal where everybody just has to get used to living with less, except, of course, the donor set, which always does well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is not about race. A lot of this is about class. A lot of this is about control. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is if you live next to pollution. My grandfather grew up swimming in Jerry's Pit. That turned out to be a Superfund site later on. If you live in East Palestine, the administration doesn't care about you. None of the $66 million in the president's proposed budget going towards environmental justice is going to help you there. It goes towards grievance. But a lot of this goes back to the declaration that carbon itself is a pollutant, which is a completely insane thing. Carbon is the byproduct of human life. Carbon comes from trees. Carbon comes from humans. Carbon comes from activity. Once we've decided that, that's where we've switched from an environmental movement that was about preservation, about maintaining our national heritage, about giving access to parks and fresh air, and one that's become, frankly, anti-human. That's the kind of stuff that we're dealing with now.
Well, Vince, Kamala Harris apparently has a lot to say and did so this week about environmental justice.
When we think about an issue like electric vehicles, and so the Venn diagram of it all includes public health. It's an environmental justice issue because, as we know these days, mostly the kids who go to school on the school bus are in low-income communities.
Vince, she loves those Venn diagrams. Like, where is this going? You sense the drumbeat building, and is it for taking land from people, seizing opportunities from people who earn them? Where is this headed?
No, this is classic deflection. They understand that Black America and America as a whole is catching on to them. Look, in my new documentary, Will You Go to Hell for Me?, I talk about these people and I describe them as a cabal of perverts, liars, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots. This is an evil institution. The Democratic Party has always been one. And if you want to describe evil, you want a definition for it, I'll make it easy for you. Anyone who would intentionally harm a child. And the Democratic Party wants to castrate little boys and call them little girls, want to cut off the breasts of little girls and call them little boys. They want to send grown men to bathrooms with little girls. They want to send them to the public education system and have them sexually groomed. They want to abort them up to the 9th month. And they want to deflect from that. So what do they tell black people who are suffering, who have their men in jail, who are living in crime-ridden, poverty-stricken areas? They say, ooh, it's racism. That's all they have. It's always worked for them. They are not going to stop until we make them. And as I said before, these are the evilest people that have ever walked the face of this earth. They don't care that these people are suffering. They don't care that they're dying.
No, well, they're out of ideas.
All they care about is getting elected.
Yeah, I'm going to keep saying this. Chris, they've given up on America. They don't like America, at least most of America, and they've given up on any notion of trying to raise standards of living. It's now all about control of food supply, control of water, control of the electrical grid. And when asked today if the Biden push for racial equity is taken into account by the IRS, Secretary Yellen had this response.
The IRS doesn't know an individual's race, and we are certainly not proposing that race be reported on tax returns. However, the IRS does need to be careful to ensure that there is fairness in tax administration.
Chris, how is there fairness in tax administration based on race?
Well, I'm glad that they're not trying to dig into people's races when they're deciding who and who not to audit. But this whole administration, just like you've been talking about, is beset by a fixation on race to the detriment of issues that the Democratic Party has traditionally stood on, and incompetence. I mean, I think the best example of this is the last couple of weeks in East Palestine, a place that fits so perfectly into the Democratic agenda, whether it's pollution, whether it's regulation, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's environmental justice and things like that. These are the sorts of things that fit perfectly in with the President's State of the Union, the more MAGA-sounding populist State of the Union, but they can't wrap their minds around actually trying to solve problems there.
Chris and Vince, thank you both.